To complement all the work you're doing in class and with the catch-up sessions and the focus on writing and really pushing and delving deep into your essay writing, I thought it'd be helpful to just do a quick presentation to talk you through the different band categories on what determines or what qualities examiners are looking for in your writing to decide where to place you in the bands, and crucially how you can be using your preparation and your revision time and your class time to be working on the skills that the examiners are expecting to see at the different levels of distinction. So whilst many of you will be sitting there thinking, I don't get band two, that's not what happens to me in class, I've chosen to start here because actually under the pressures of the exams and with not very focused preparation, actually a vast majority of students nationally do fall into band two. This will kind of get you into the D grade criteria. And I've taken it away from looking at band one, where basically you are not answering the question. Once you get to band two, you are loosely answering the question. You are loosely offering some moments from the text to support your view. But as a marker reading your work, I'm having to do a lot of the work myself. So a lot of what you say is probably rather implicit rather than explicitly directing me as to how this material is answering the question. What I will say here is that this comes down to textual knowledge. People who are in band two don't particularly know their texts securely enough. They certainly are not taking the time to plan and to think and to unpick that essay question before they start. They haven't got into good habits in the run up to the exam, which means once they get to the exam, they look at a question and they just start writing. So actually, in terms of all of the work you're doing in class now and all of the sample essays and paragraph writing that you're doing, building in the good habits now and not just starting to write from what's in your head, but really investing time to think and to prepare and to know your text and to think about the argument will be hugely beneficial to make sure that you're not going into the exam working and thinking in a way that a band two student does. So band three is midpoint in the mark scheme, and again, sort of nationally, this is where the vast majority of students fall. People seem to sort of plateau on a band three, and I guess for us, it's thinking about kind of if you're around the kind of 15 mark, what can you do to push yourself further? Band three students now are absolutely focused on the task, and they have got some good textual knowledge behind them. They're using relevant details in supportive ways. The argument that they present is very straightforward. They do not stray off this task, and they are starting now, unlike band two students, to be engaging with how texts are constructed, so how authors, the different methods that they are using in order to shape how we respond to the texts. Crucially, by band three, you'll see by the bottom bullet point, people are planning because their argument is ordered in a very relevant and very sensible way. Without planning, you are writing randomly and ad hocly. You will never get into band three. So again, practicing and taking time to really work on plans and to push your thinking with all of the support and the advice you're getting with your teachers about unpicking questions and preparing texts are absolutely vital. So how well does a band three student know their texts? And take some time, pause the video and read these 5 bullet points because I think this will be hugely helpful for you. Rejoin when you're ready. So I think there's some really helpful guidance as to how you can be revising your text. So at the straightforward level, you know what happens, you know the sequence, you know how it begins and ends, and you've got really key moments there. This will only happen if you're rereading or rewatching. Remember, you have the login details for digital theatre. Watch Othello again, watch different versions of Othello, watch Death of a Salesman. If you're doing a Doll's House, watch that again, and be reading and your text over and over again. All of the Seneca work you're doing, if you're keeping up to speed, will be helping you at this very straightforward level. We are getting your band three knowledge ready. Crucially, you know where those key moments are. You've got good moments or quotations or close references, but remember, you start to be selective. You are not just putting in quotations you know, but you have a range of them at your disposal that tie into different types of questions you could be getting. You'll understand your characters, but crucially, you'll know about how they're working within the genre. So if it's the tragedy genre, the villainous, the heroic, the victim, for example, the dupe, you're aware of these character types and how different characters are reflecting or symbolizing certain ideas. Crucially as well, you're starting to think about structural features such as place and time settings. So again, this is telling you in your revision, could you do all of these things? Do you know the plot, the sequence? Do you know how it begins and ends? Do you know characters' opening lines, closing lines, opening moments, closing moments? What about the places being used? What about the time frame being used? How are they working within the genre? These are the kind of revision notes and the revision flashcards you should be making. I want to push beyond band 3, but obviously if you're not doing the band 3 graft, and believe me, it is hard graft to do all of this and to do the revisiting and to do the rereading and to go back through class notes, and it doesn't happen easily. It needs time and effort. How do we move into band 4? Well, obviously, you've got your secure knowledge of your text behind you. When you're moving into band 4, it's more about how you're working the argument, the question that's being presented to you, and how well you're really understanding the nuances, the subtlety of the argument, and that there are alternative ways of seeing. The exam boards say here that band 3 argument is ordered in a sensible way because it is planned. However, by the time you're getting into band 4 and band 5, actually you are using language and you're using your topic sentences to drive arguments forward. You can see a connectedness, you can see a contrast, you are building up and adding detail and becoming really convincing. And your language helps there, but your planning and your textual knowledge and your unpicking of the questions is vital. Keywords for this band is also thoroughness. So this is about the depth of analysis that you offer, the fact that you can confidently range and discriminate between the very best moments and the very best pieces of textual support to weave into your argument to make yourself even more convincing. And again, now words we're using here are that you are precise, you are accurate, you are careful, you are discriminating. So that can only happen through amazing textual knowledge and then lots of practice. And this is often what makes the difference between band 3 and 4. Band 3, you've got your text and you're doing that hard graft. With band 4, you're applying it and practicing and refining all of the time. If you're consistently operating at the top end of band 4 and getting 20 out of 25, and particularly for exam text, then actually you're putting yourself in a really good position to just potentially sneak into that A grade. Breaking into band 5 requires real flair, and these are your secure and these are your A grade, A star grade students really. But what is it that they're doing differently? And it's summarised here. They are beyond thorough. They offer something special. You make the examiner think, gosh, haven't thought of it like that before, and that's really interesting. It's impressive and it's insightful, and we can't train you to do this. As they say at the bottom, band 5 responses tend to look very different from one another because these are candidates who are very confident, have found a voice, have many ideas, have really considered and wrangled with ideas and present them in a really telling way. So this comes with your band 3 hard work, your band 4 practice and working with essay questions, but then to kind of really push it further, these are sort of some subtle distinctions in terms of revisions that you can do. How do you move from coherent and thorough to be perceptive in your insights and your depth? Well, this is where you see how characters are really operating within genre. You're aware of when they're present and when they're not, and where that's important. And again, kind of how they're managed opening to closings. You are very much as well aware of the significance of the choices of settings, of place, of time, those structural choices that writers are choosing to use in order to shape your opinions. So again, kind of investing time to do more thinking about these areas, to do wider reading about these areas, is exactly what band 5 students are doing. And on top of that, as I say, this notion about genre, they're able to see and understand, because they've done critical reading, what other critics are saying about how the text operates within the genre. Now, this does not mean in any way, and I want to stress this, that band 5 students are quoting critics in their exam. They are not. It's not an expectation. It's not encouraged. But actually, by reading widely and reading what other critics are saying, joining in a conversation that is already in existence about the text, it will refine and improve your own thinking and your own understanding and your own beliefs. And in that way, you start to stand out beyond everybody else. And this is because, and these are your band 5 words, you are incredibly perceptive and you are assured. You have a depth of understanding. You are very aware of the minute subtleties of the question and the complexity of the debate that's being presented to you. Remember, band 3 is a straightforward debate. By band 5, you're really understanding that there's a lot more going on underneath the surface than might first appear, and you engage with that and you grapple with it. And you write very confidently because you know your stuff and you know what else has been going on in the conversation about the text, rather than just kind of what you personally respond to. I think that final bullet point, the other words to define perception, is hugely helpful for you to be aware of. That insight is that depth of knowledge which allows you to illuminate other ideas and other areas. Being judicious and astute is about the evidence that you're choosing to use and how you unpick that evidence, be it authorial method or specific moments in plot or characterization, and you understand how it's all working together to shape your argument, and you have, rather like a lawyer, a weighty, convincing argument. Details work together, you notice patterns, you build up ideas in order to really show exactly what your answer to the question is. The summary, your markers when they're thinking, is this a band 5 response? These are the kind of things that they will be looking for in your writing. Now, they might not see all of these, they won't always be relevant, but you are judicious, you are assured, and you are confident that you are really exploring the very best bits of detail in a highly perceptive way to be convincing. Band 5 does not come by fluke. Band 3, all of that graph that goes on, all of that practice for band 4. And then by band 5, it's the confidence to think quickly, but yet still very deeply in exam conditions. And you are bringing everything together. So that's an awful lot of practice. It's an awful lot of listening to advice that teachers are giving you and moving forward. It's an awful lot of your own thinking and reading and listening to podcasts. You have been directed many times to a wealth of resources out there. You need to take charge of accessing those, but then crucially doing something with them. How is it shaping your understanding? How is it building knowledge? How is it changing your opinions about certain things? And you are constantly questioning all of the time. So to summarise all of this, and again from AQA's viewpoint, for band 5, when you are assured, you are confident, it's your textual knowledge, it's your opinions born from wider reading, not what we do in class, but the candidate's wider reading, and thorough practice, really working, really listening to advice, going back, being informed, moving forward all of the time. And again, the final bullet point kind of says it all. Assuredness comes from their independent work and commitment as well as their classwork. So if you are only doing really what teachers are asking you to do, that's wonderful, but it's not going to push you to the next level. So as we move forward towards the exam, obviously there are lots of opportunities to practice, and if you're really serious about band 5, there's lots of independent practice that needs to be happening at the same time. And I thought it might be helpful for you just to sort of see again kind of what markers are directed to look for in a band 5 response to show that you're really assured with what you are doing. And again, this can really shape your revision, but also shape how you practice and shape what writing skills you choose to practice in the run up to the exam time. So as you are now engaging with classwork, and you'll start to be looking increasingly at students' responses and looking at the different levels and layers of achievement, really bear all of this in mind. You have time to work on this, but you need to start to get yourself disciplined now. If you are doing writing tasks in class, put that effort in now to do that extra reading, that extra research, to go away and find out what other people think, to use a phrase that I know Miss Richardson has used with her class, percolate ideas, let them brew over time, do a plan, come back to it, revisit it, do more reading, add some more. So you're constantly growing your knowledge and your understanding because you've got time to do it now. Don't leave it in the run up to the sort of month run up before the exam. You won't have time to give it the attention that it deserves. So really start to schedule your time now, to be very disciplined with your time, organise yourself, and set kind of additional independent work that you can be doing to really help you move from clear, relevant, coherent, thorough to assured and perceptive. The very best of luck.